make sure we've got it figured out.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, that was yours. I just read your hand. Got 30 seconds. No pressure.
We will call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. Mr. Williams, would you lead us in the pledge? Please rise. I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That will take us to recognitions. We will start with Journalism All Missouri Best of Show.
Okay, there, now got it. Okay, good evening. It is my pleasure to announce Genevieve Wheeler for earning the Best of Show at J-Day. So that is in all of the state of Missouri, she placed #1. So just so you understand, all Missouri is the top 10%. Best of Show is the best. So she earned the best for her package, Human Interest Story, our human interest feature on the TikTok ban. So if you haven't gone to our YouTube channel, GVHS Eagle Media, and check that out, you should go check that out. So come on up, Genevieve.
All right, up next we have Dr. Drew Smith speaking about a couple of students from Green Valley High School.
Good evening. Tonight, I have the honor to recognize Drew Melching for multiple distinguished awards. Drew, why don't you come on up? Let me face your crowd there. Here we go. For the first award, it is with great pride that I get to announce that Drew has been chosen as a Missouri Scholars 100. This is an incredibly prestigious award, only to the top academic seniors across the state. To even be considered for this recognition, Drew had to complete what is called an academic decathlon. This includes maintaining a near-perfect GPA, earning a top-tier ACT, completing an extensive list of honors and AP courses, and ranking in the top 10% of the senior class. But it doesn't stop there. The selection also considers his leadership, character, school involvement, and service to the community. In every one of these areas, Drew has gone above and beyond, demonstrating not just academic ability, but a strong sense of purpose and integrity. Please join me in congratulating Drew as a Missouri Scholars 100. But wait, there's more. Drew was also named a semifinalist for the U.S. Presidential Scholars Program, one of the highest honors a high school student can receive nationwide. This program was established in 1964, and it recognizes up to 161 students across the nation each year for their academic excellence, leadership, and service. Only 10 students from Missouri were selected, and only 2 from the Kansas City metro area. Drew Melching, we are proud of you for this. Drew is a shining example of the Valley Way, demonstrating excellence, integrity, and commitment in everything that he does. We could not be more proud. Congratulations, Drew.
Awesome, thank you so much. Next up, we have our Winter Guard.
Hello, we have, go ahead. You're good. This is our varsity Winter Guard program. Keep going, you're good. We are very fortunate to have 2 teams here in Grain Valley, our JV at the high school and our varsity at the high school. It's been an incredible season for both teams this season, a competitive season from February through April. Our varsity team went undefeated in their state circuit, MCCGA, which is where we compete against Missouri and the surrounding states. They placed first overall at our state championships at the end of March, as well as our junior varsity, which placed 3rd overall in the same division as our varsity level. So very exciting times for them. This is also the very first ensemble, our JV and varsity, to attend Winter Guard International, which is the world's level or national level for our activity, which for some people it's just flags in a gym or flags on a field, but it's a lot more than that. In other activities, you get 9 innings or 2 halves or 4 quarters. They get 4 minutes and 30 seconds to show the nation, the judges, the audience, what they're capable of. And at the end of their World Championship season this past April, after through about 130 some odd teams, they placed fifth overall at World Championships in their division.
Awesome, thank you. Next up, we have our girls swim and dive state qualifiers.
Thank you tonight for honoring these wonderful young ladies. This was a great year for the Grain Valley Swim and Dive program, and I was so blessed to work with such an incredible group of athletes. As you hear, they are extremely active athletes. They not only do their sport, but other sports, other activities, their studies, and their community involvement. The entire team needs to be commended for all that they did this year. Although a small team, these athletes dominate the pool. They can win almost every single event at conference and most swim meets, but we did not have the depth to win conference titles and/or swim meets. The Grain Valley community still does not know Grain Valley has a swim team. Nevertheless, I am so proud of these young people and their leadership at the pool, in the classroom, and the community. My first athlete is Aubrey Twyman, who is a sophomore. She is the second season of her swimming. She was also involved in marching band. She stays active in the off-season with swimming and band. This year, she was all-conference second team in the 200 IM relay, honorable mention in the 100 back and the 200 free. She's been working hard all year and swimming, and she's very close to making her own personal state cut in the 100 back. She did find a spot in the state 200 IM relay, You can always find Aubrey smiling and her willingness to do practices. She was awarded this year Most Improved Swimmer, and I completely agree with that. Thank you. The next swimmer, who's not here tonight, but I'd like you to know about her, Caroline Hooper, is a junior. She is currently involved in the EMT Fire and Science program at Fort Osage, and she's in the NTHS. She's also involved in Skills USA. She has a GPA of 4.2. Caroline has been working on her swimming for years, and she's one of my versatile swimmers on the team. If I need a spot filled, Miss Caroline is always willing to take the spot. She can do all the strokes, which many swimmers cannot. Caroline was all-conference second team, the 200 IM relay, and honorable mention in the 100 breast. This year, Caroline qualified for the state 200 IM relay, and she's the daughter of Aaron Hooper. Haley Maybell is a senior, and she is a fairly new swimmer to the team. Haley joined the swim team last year. She did not know how to swim. She has worked really hard all last year and this year, and it paid off for her, for she found herself on the state team as an alternate for all 3 relays. Haley currently represents Green Valley on the soccer team. She plans to go to MCC for 2 years on her A+ program and then transfer to UMKC for pre-law. Her curriculum includes several AP classes. Haley also earned the Golden Eagle Award this year. She currently serves the community in giving kids swim lessons, and I'm so very proud of her hard work. Emily Holsworth is a junior. She's involved in the CTC program for EMT at Fort Osage. She has a 4.2 GPA and is in HOSA, YAC, NHS, and National Technical Honor Society. She participates for Green Valley in track, and she's been a competitive swimmer for years and has been at the Green Valley swim team for all 3 years. This year, she's an all-conference second team in backstroke, all-conference second team in the 200 IM relay. She was honorable mention in the 50 free. She has made the state team every year. This year, she swam in the 200 IM relay and the 100 back. Thank you. Riley Wade is a senior. She is in the PLTW program where she's taking classes to specialize for a future in the medical field. She maintains a 4.2 GPA. Miss Riley has been on the Green Valley swim team all 4 years. This year, she was all-conference second team for breaststroke and the 50 free all-conference first team in the 200 free relay and the 400 free relay. She's made it on the state team every year, and this year at state, she made it to the podium in the 200 free relay, securing an 8th place finish and medal and an all-to-state title. Her 400 free relay at state placed 11th, and at state, she also swam the 100 breaststroke, which is her specialty, and she broke the school record. Riley is heading off to Northwest College to study to be a dentist. Thanks, Riley. Miss Caitlin Eppel is a junior. She takes AP Biology, AP Language and Composition, AP History. She has a 4.1 GPA and is a student and is involved in student government and a part of the National Honor Society. She's also one of my most versatile swimmers that can swim every stroke. Her specialty is the 200 free, the 100 free, which she was all-conference first team in the 200 free, the 100 free, the 200 free relay, and the 400 free relay. At state, she had to do a swim-off to get into finals for the 100 free. She swam like crazy and broke the school record on the 100 free, but missed finals by a 1/10 of a point. She swam at state in the 200 free relay, which landed her on the podium for a medal and an all-state title. She also was part of the 400 free relay. If you pull up Misha swimming and diving, you'll see lots of pictures of Green Valley. Thanks to Caitlin, she wanted to make sure everybody knew who Green Valley was noticed at state. Caitlin was voted for the Most Spirited Award. Good job, Caitlin. Okay, I got 2 more. Ellie Martin is a junior. She's a very busy young lady. She is currently enrolled in AP Biology, A Push, Language and Composition. She's in the PLTW Engineering and Architecture. She's in YAC and part of National Honor Society. She has earned her Golden Award with Girl Scouts. She maintains a 4.32 GPA. She's a competitive year-round swimmer. She currently helps the community by providing swim lessons for kids. She was all-conference first team in the 200 IM, the 500 free, the 200 free relay, the 400 free relay. She made every swimming consideration cut offered at state second year in a row, except for diving. And she has told me she's going to work on that for next season. At state, Ellie placed 13th in the 200 IM, breaking the school record. She placed 15th in the 500, which she broke the school record in that event. She was also part of the 200 free relay, making it to the podium for eighth place and an all-state title, breaking the school record. She was also part of the 400 free, getting 11th place. Ellie also broke the school record in the 100 back, and Ellie was nominated and received the All-In, All-the-Time award. Ellie is one of several swimmers that swim in the annual Swim Across America that swims to help fight cancer. Very nice. Last but not least is Callie Beard, is a junior. She is the president of HOSA and just recently competed in a HOSA competition, got 4th place. She is active in the National Honor Society with a GPA of 4.3. She takes several AP courses, but to this day, she still has a hatred for math. She is in and loves show choir. You could always hear her swimming practice, singing her songs, and working on her dance move for show choir. This year, Callie was all-conference first team in the 50 and the 100 fly, the 200 free, and the 400 free relay. At state, she swam the 50 free, got a podium finish for 6th place, an all-state title, and broke the school record. She was also in the 200 free relay with a podium finish and an all-state title. Callie also broke another record. She became the only person in Grain Valley swim and dive that got 2 medals at a state competition. Nice job. She also swam the 100 fly, placed 13th, and broke the school record on that. She swam the 400 free relay, getting 11th place. And Callie also received the High Point Award this year. As you can hear, these girls are not only competitive inside and outside of swimming, they are all highly productive, academic achievers, outstanding community leaders, and Grain Valley should be very proud of these girls. I have had several officials at state that said to me, it was so nice to hear Grain Valley in the results, how proud they were to hear Grain Valley in the podium, and how awesome the Grain Valley girls were this year. And I agree with this. They were an awesome group of people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have our wrestling state qualifiers.
So we talk a lot about like making improvements and getting 1% better and trying to be better than we were yesterday or last year. So last year I had like some scribbles on a paper. This year I wrote 3 pages, but probably won't read all this. So I put some pauses for effect in here and some jokes. I'll take them out, don't worry. I want to start with 2 of our wrestlers that couldn't be here tonight. Jaden Maley, unfortunately, couldn't be here tonight. She is currently in Las Vegas, Nevada, not gambling. She's wrestling out there. She's competing in the USA Wrestling National Girls High School Showcase. She did a really great job. I haven't checked the results, but she was wrestling for 8th at one of the toughest tournaments in the country. Jay is already arguably the most accomplished athlete to walk through the halls of Grand Valley. She's already a multi-time All-American, a multi-time state finalist, but more importantly, she's an amazing human being. She's a great leader. We already have some 8th graders coming over and lifting with us, and Jaden has already placed herself in a role as a protector and a leader and a person that those kids can rely on. The other student athlete who couldn't be here, not quite as happy, Tyler Jones was wrestling last weekend and received a concussion, so he's taking a little break and getting some much needed rest. Tyler Jones moved to us when he was a sophomore. He had to do a year on JV. He came from Lincoln Prep, but Tyler Jones has an incredible attitude. He came in, he's always positive, he's had goals. He wanted to make the varsity lineup. He wanted to qualify for state. And I don't know if there was a kid on our team that when they qualified, they were more excited. Tyler Jones has done everything the right way, and I really wish he could be here tonight. Now for our student athletes that were able to make it. Our first one, I don't know if you want to like raise your hand and do a little spin. No, I didn't think you would. Thought I'd ask though. Our first student athlete that was able to make it tonight is Adelia Del Real. We call her Deli. Deli is a senior. Deli is now the program's 3rd multi-time state qualifier in our young girls program. Deli is also our 2nd wrestler to be going on to wrestle in college. Deli will be wrestling at Central College in Pella, Iowa for the Dutch. The Dutch are getting a great one. Deli moved here as a sophomore from Indiana, and she totally didn't have an attitude at all when she showed up. She was just the sweetest angel. But she showed up, and she took a little while, but she bought in, and she worked super hard, and she accomplished her goal. She made it to state. And more importantly, Deli's done a great job of growing our wrestling program. When Deli got here from Indiana, we had a whole 2 girls on the team. It was pretty small. We were pretty young, in large part thanks to Deli and her recruiting and getting in the halls and setting a great example and showing what it means to wrestle at Grand Valley as a young lady. We have double-digit numbers now, and we only see the number continuing to grow because of the legacy people like Deli are leaving behind. Adelia Del Real. Justin King is a junior. Hand up, Toro. Oh, no, Toro. Okay. We'll work on it, guys. Okay. Justin King is a junior. He is a first-time state qualifier. And Justin King is resilient and gritty. Just as I was writing this out and thinking about Justin, Justin King qualified for the state tournament by avenging a loss. And not just avenging a loss, but avenging a loss in overtime. Tie match. Justin's been wrestling for 7 minutes. He's physically exhausted. Lots of kids at this point give up. They just don't have it in them. Instead, Justin takes a shot, keeps his head up, drives through to beat a kid who beat him 2 weeks before. And that's what I noticed most about Justin. Justin isn't going to be loud. I wouldn't call him a cheerleader necessarily, but he is steady. He is strong. I wrote in here, he's like an oak tree in a storm. He is unyielding. He does the right things all the time, even if he's not screaming or the eyes aren't falling on him. He does the right thing. Justin King. Zach Blease. Nope, okay. All right. Zach is currently a junior as well. He's a multi-time state qualifier. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this for Dr. Smith. He also might be a super genius. We're not really willing to let him have that, though. He got like a perfect PSAT or something. Dr. Smith had to tell me. So we often say that our boy is wicked smart, okay? Zach also received his 100th win this season, along with being a state qualifier. Zach shows what we hope every kid in our program strives to be. He is both an athlete, and an academic. He shines in the classroom and in the wrestling room. He's a great positive influence on our underclassmen. His dedication to the sport doesn't go unnoticed. Zach spends countless hours. We spend more time telling Zach not to wrestle than we do telling Zach to wrestle. He doesn't really understand what the word break means. Zach, please. Our next senior is Colston Parks. Colston Parks has stood up here a couple of times. You know, you might not recognize him though. Colston Parks has grown in a lot of different ways, one of them being physically. When I showed up here his freshman year, Colston stood at about 4'10" and about 98 pounds soaking wet. I know you find it hard to believe because he's pushing 6 foot, and as he refers to himself, he is the big dog. Maybe. All right. But he's grown in a lot more ways than that. I wrote here a story. I was talking to Mrs. Parks, Colston's mom. We were going down in the Grand Valley Parade. Mrs. Parks is like, Colston, get out there, start a chant. Come on, do something. Colston's like, shaking his head. He's just really shy. I wouldn't call him shy anymore. I wouldn't say he's very extroverted. I don't think he's going to do the little twirl I keep asking for, but he's definitely not shy. He's grown and become a real leader, somebody that leads from the front by example. He's always there if a teammate needs a ride. When everybody's going out to eat after duels, he makes sure everybody is included. I have here, he's shown to many of our underclassmen what it means to lead from the front and lead by example. Colston Parks. Last, certainly not least, Gavin Barker, our big guy. Yeah, that's my guy. There we go. So that plays into this like perfectly. I wrote here that Gavin is like the flu in the best way possible, all right? You are contagious, Gavin. Gavin has a humongous smile and a positive attitude, and just like he got everybody in here to laugh, you can always count on Gavin to raise the mood of our room. Wrestling is a grueling, grimy, old school sport, and it's not always fun. But Gavin finds a way to make it fun. Whether it's grabbing a hacky sack or a big yoga ball or doing what he needs to lift the team's spirit. He's like the flu. He's infectious, but a good flu, buddy, okay? I would be remiss. I do want to talk about Gavin's story here when he qualified for state. Gavin went into our district tournament as a 7 seed. The top 4 go to state. So Gavin beat the number 1 seed out of our district, which is considered the toughest district in the state of Missouri, to go to the state tournament. He then got 4th. So as we're looking at only 4 other kids that take 4th get to go. So you're looking at, I guess you could argue his best seed would be like, I'm bad at math, that's why I teach history, but would be like 14th. Did I do that right? Maybe. But Gavin made it all the way to the bubble. Essentially, Gavin was top 8 in the state. He might not have gotten what he wanted. I know he wanted a state medal, and by God, I wanted him to get it too. But I think Gavin's story shows again exactly what the programs are about. Being gritty, determination, and even when your back's against the wall, fighting through it. Things like that are things Gavin and our kids can take long after they're done with wrestling, when they move on to life and have careers and families. And I think all these kids do a great job of showing that example, that high school sports is about more than just the sport. Gavin Barker, Grand Valley Wrestling Team. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Moving right along, we have our CTC Skills USA state qualifiers.
CTC Skills USA, if you're here, come on up. Good evening. Skills USA is a national workforce development organization for nearly 400,000 students across the United States, ranging from middle school to college. Emphasis is placed on being career ready, from training and competing in industry competitions to becoming proficient in skills like professional communication, public speaking, and customer service. Over 60 CTC students traveled to this year's state competition at State Technical College in Lynn, Missouri. Students achieved a total of 23 medals, with 4 medalists qualifying to compete at the Skills USA Nationals this summer in Atlanta, Georgia. 6 of those medalists were Grain Valley students. In Criminal Justice Quiz Bowl, we're excited to honor silver medalist Mia Braley, Bennett Clements, and Avery Stumpenhouse. Mia and Avery are juniors in our CSI law enforcement program and stay involved here at Grain Valley. Mia plays trumpet and serves on the color guard for marching band, and Avery is on the soccer team, achieving a win with her teammates before traveling that evening to Jefferson City to meet us at the hotel. Bennett is a junior enrolled in our advanced computer engineering, but took on the challenge of learning all about criminal justice and balancing that with his role as a student soccer manager. We're excited to welcome all of them back to CTC next year as seniors and go for the gold. Next, we'd like to honor Benjamin Page. He is a senior in construction trades who achieved bronze medal in Masonry Tech Info. This exam consists of 100 multiple choice questions on subjects like materials, construction techniques, and design considerations for durability and safety. Ben has secured a full-time position with Musselman and Hall Contractors in Kansas City after graduation. Lastly, we'd like to honor our automotive medalist, silver medalist Carson Shaletto and gold medalist Isaac Pittman. Isaac, who will be serving in the United States Marine Corps after graduation, will be competing at nationals before continuing on to basic training in August. Carson will be continuing on to Metropolitan Community College to study engineering before completing his 4-year degree. What makes Isaac and Carson's accomplishments even more incredible is that they are continuing a legacy in both the automotive technology program and for Grain Valley. They are now the 4th and 5th Grain Valley students in 4 years to medal in mobile electronics at State. And Isaac will be the 4th Grain Valley student since 2022 to compete at nationals, following the footsteps of 2022 graduate Jake Mickelson and 2023 graduates Tanner Todd and Carson Davis. Tanner secured gold at both state and nationals in 2023 in the secondary category, gold at both state and nationals in the post-secondary category last year, and is also heading to Atlanta again this year after securing gold at the state level for the 3rd year in a row. Grain Valley, we cannot thank you enough for your dedication and commitment to supporting CTC students. It is because of the partnership we have with that our students are not only finding success, but thriving long past graduation. We look forward to seeing the legacy of Grain Valley students continue to flourish. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to send it over to Dr. Welly to talk a little bit about our staff awards for this year.
Very good. It's really exciting to be able to recognize so many students in so many various types of activities, and we want to thank all of their sponsors and coaches for helping to guide them and lead them. We do want to wrap up our recognitions tonight with 2 very special adult educators for the school district, so I'm very thrilled to be able to share with you our magnificent finalists and the winners of our annual Support Staff Employee of the Year and Teacher of the Year award program. So our community, students, and staff really turned out this year, submitting hundreds of nominations for these two positions. After 2 qualifying rounds, our winners were selected by panels of people not directly associated with the school district, and every one of our nominees represents the very best that Grain Valley Schools has to offer. We'd be very proud to have any of these individuals represent our school district and how we serve our students. The finalists for Grain Valley Support Staff Employee of the Year Award this year were Amy Galvin, Amy Shepard, Mary Johnson, Ryan Hay, and Cody Ray. And we're pleased to announce that the winner of our Support Staff Employee of the Year Award goes to Ryan Hay. Congratulations. And Ryan and his boss, Tech Director Jameer Wadi, are here tonight. I just want to say a few words about Ryan. Ryan Hay is a field technician for our technology department and is housed at Matthews Elementary School. Mr. Hay was nominated by a colleague who said, "It's hard to describe all that Mr. Hay does for Matthews Elementary and our school district as a whole. He serves as a technology technician supporting multiple buildings in our district. It doesn't matter what issue is presented, Mr. Hay immediately jumps in to help support. You will never see him without a smile on his face. He's the most polite, caring, and thoughtful person I get to work with every day. His reputation extends throughout the district and community. Mr. Hay is so quick to race to a classroom to fix a Chromebook or a teacher's pro board. He is very responsive to the needs of students and staff. Without him, our classrooms would not be able to function. He is truly a blessing to us and to this school district. Mr. Hay is passionate about what he does and takes pride in his ability to help students and staff by being successful by having access to high-functioning technology. When Mr. Hay talks about his role as a field tech, he says, "I try to be someone that I would want to work with." So, Mr. Hay, congratulations and thank you. Next up, Grain Valley Teacher of the Year Award. Our finalists this year were Amanda Chrisman, Katie Sorensen, Matt Nevels, Kirsten Smith, and Eric Ball. And the winner of our Grain Valley Teacher of the Year Award goes to Eric Ball. And he is accompanied by high school principal Dr. Drew Smith. Eric Ball is a social studies teacher at Grain Valley High School. He was nominated by students, both current and former, who apparently are still following us on social media. Mr. Ball was really quick to not only help me, so this is what one of his students writes. Mr. Ball was really quick to not only help me rationalize my thoughts, but he told me how important I was to the school. Not only that, he makes a really big effort to help the students who are really struggling, treating them like they're people and emphasizing the importance that they have, not just as students, but as people. Eric Ball is a dedicated and experienced educator in Grain Valley High School. He's been shaping young minds for an impressive 19 years. Over nearly 2 decades, Mr. Ball has taught advanced placement U.S. government and politics, GVHS success, and honors civics, earning a reputation as a teacher who brings passion, creativity, and care into his classroom. Known for his ability to make history both engaging and meaningful, he has mastered the art of keeping lessons fun while ensuring they remain authentic and relevant. Additionally, you might recognize Mr. Ball as the voice of the Eagles. He announces many GVHS sports and activities in the Valley of the Grain. The interview panel, comprised of administrators from surrounding school districts, which I think is a dangerous move, by the way, team, were thoroughly impressed by Mr. Ball's passion for teaching and his commitment to giving back and being active in the Grain Valley community. He says that he still remembers each of his former students' names, and that is all thanks to the impact they've had on him as a student. Mr. Ball also shared that his passion for social studies comes from it being more than dates and dead people. It teaches students that they are living social studies and they are understanding social studies impacts everyday lives. Mr. Ball, congratulations. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much to all of our award recipients and the families. At this time, we will take a short break for any of you that wouldn't like to stay for the rest of the meeting. And then we'll pick up here in just a minute.
Congratulations, everybody. Nice job, parents. That was a lot of fun.
All right. Thank you for those that stayed. All right, that will take us to patron comments. Any school district patron may present information to the board at this time. Presentations will be limited to no more than 5 minutes. The board will not take action on any issue not included on the published agenda. However, all comments will be taken into consideration by the Board of Education. Patrons are requested not to discuss individual faculty, staff, or students. Patrons are reminded that this is a public forum and comments relative to individuals could result in litigation. However, any patron may request to meet with the board in executive session. No response will be given by the board at this time. We do have one member or one individual signed up, Lisa Kelly. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
My name is Lisa Kelly. I am actually here with the board from Blue Springs BMX. I am thankful for your time. We would like to draw your attention to some things that we do for our community and we're going to offer to you. BMX stands for Bicycle Motocross. Blue Springs BMX track is ranked number 3 in all of North America. 315 tracks. Our track is number 3. We are home to over 600 riders. 52 of them are in Grand Valley School District. We are a 501c3 organization and we survive off of volunteers. Every bit of money that we take in goes back into our track. Our dirt, our glue, our fences, our staging, what is the roof over our staging, it all goes back to our community. Sports participation has shown to be beneficial to our youth. It enhances social skills, teamwork, discipline, self-esteem, and lowers anxiety and depression. I might bend your rules a little bit. I have a student in Grain Valley. He played basketball and baseball when he was younger. He was terrible. He did not like to embarrass himself. He was timid. He did not want to hurt anyone else's feelings. He would run up and down that court, hoping somebody would drop the ball or let it go, and he could pick it up and hand it to someone who would make the basket. In baseball, he started in t-ball when he was 8 years old. There was not a coach available for 11 of the children, and I volunteered to coach his team. And we won 3 games that summer. It was terrible. He is dyslexic. He has an IEP. He struggles with reading. He has a condition, and I don't remember the name of it, but he can look at a keyboard and the keys move around. He can look at it once, look up, look back down. The keys are in different places. I remember crying in an IEP meeting, wondering and asking, how is he going to survive outside of school? 2 years later, after lots of begging, he got his wish and got to join Blue Springs BMX. The first year, he was 6th in state. Second year, he was 4th in state, and he was so upset with himself. He was so disappointed that winter he lifted weights. He went outside and he worked on with his bike. He ran what's the word I'm looking for? Sprints. He ran sprints. That next year, this last year, if you flip the page, he was 1st in state. This young man now can read 160 words a minute. He is confident. He has gone from that timid boy to, he likes to talk trash, and we have a rule now, there is no talking trash up and staging with the other riders. BMX is inclusive to all ages and proficiencies, from balance bike to competing in worlds in hopes of qualifying for the Olympic team. We have riders as young as 2 years old. I think we have a couple that are 18 months old. We start young. And worlds, if they qualify there, the Olympics is right there waiting for them. One moment, okay. We want to offer activities for our students to engage at their own pace and convenience. Here's a whole sheet. We want to offer field trips for Valley kids, a day camp for all ages. We will provide bikes, helmets. The next one says Grain Valley BMX Racing League. I would like to add in BMX Club, an after-school club. This would take a little more help from all of us. We would need a sponsor from the district. And then everything else is listed. There is, at the bottom, BMX Racing League. It's what we would mimic for this club. The next page is Sand Springs BMX has a racing team. And there's a link there that shows how they run that, and we would imitate that same thing. It would take longer to do than field trips. There's also USA BMX Foundation. This is completely separate from us, but it has something if you want to look up. It has many different things, curriculum ideas for the school, and I think they're great. You should look at them. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you for presenting, and we will take a look at this. Thank you. All right, that will take us to the next item on the agenda, reports. We will start with the curriculum report.
Yes, our Curriculum Review Committee met again this spring, and the report from this session is shared along with links for the board to the curriculum that was reviewed. These 8 courses will come back to the board for approval as soon as next month. And we have Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Brandy Gump, with us tonight to help answer any questions that anyone on the board may have about these courses. You can see you've got links for scope and sequence and the curriculum itself in the left. Ready for approval. 8 of them have a yes, a couple of them have a no, and then the action items is a summary of the feedback from the committee that the administration takes pretty seriously, and then the teams will go back and make changes as needed if the feedback fits the direction of where we're trying to go.
And
Our-
just,
Our committee chair is also here tonight. Marissa Giangrasso is serving as our committee chair.
very good. And Mr. Scully, you also serve on this committee? Just, all right, very good.
And Dr. Taylor.
And Dr. Taylor. Sorry. And Dr. Taylor. Thank you. Do you have anything that you'd like to add before we go into any questions? How did the last curriculum review go?
It went really well. We looked mostly at elementary and high school, and the committee was very complimentary of the elementary with spiraling with their standards to help provide time for mastery over the course of a school year. And then the high school was very complimentary. Committee was very complimentary of the high school with EOC scores reflecting the rigor that are in some of the courses. So it went very well that evening.
Does any of the members have any questions on the? No? No.
Are you happy with the outcome, Dr. Gump?
Yes, it's been a really great process. I think the teachers are really appreciative of the feedback and they're being really reflective. The courses that you see that are not ready for you tonight are because they are being so reflective, taking all of that information into account and really looking at this. So I think they're really wanting to put out a quality product that all of our teachers can utilize quickly. We've got new teachers coming in, but we're all on the same page and we all know what's going on. I think it's been a really good process.
All right, thank you very much.
I do want to add that, this school year under Dr. Gump's leadership, the whole academic team has set some very ambitious goals to ensure we started out in 3 years, there's only 2.5 years left, sorry, that we would have under our new framework, modern curriculum framework, that we would have approved, updated curriculum in every course we teach. So how many courses are we working on in the next year or two? It seems like it was in the 60-some courses.
It is, don't quote me, I know I gave the number not that long ago, but I think it's 67 that are actively in motion or will be by August 4th.
Yeah, so very, very ambitious. And so this year, with the work of the committee and the work of the teachers who were trained to write curriculum, is really an exercise for the academic team to really practice the methods and all the practices. And now they're going to get really ambitious and bring it to scale because we're going to have as many as 67 courses that are going to be in development over the next 2.5 years. So very ambitious goal. But it is the least exciting thing that is the biggest foundation for success in a classroom, is that we have a sustainable, viable, and strong curriculum. So I commend everybody involved in the effort. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I know that when this was originally brought up as a committee between the administration and the board, there was some hesitancy about how the process might work, from having just standard, regular community members involved in the process of reviewing. Has all of that went well? Have there been any issues with any of that?
Not at all. We asked for feedback each time. You know, the fall was the first time that I had the opportunity to do that and participate in that role, but the feedback has been consistent from everyone participating, even the teachers afterward. Naturally, they're a little nervous going into it. What's this going to be like? But they all talk about how great it was. They love sharing about this work. It's what they do every day. And our community members that are a part of this, they're genuinely interested. They're asking great questions, and our teachers are excited to share with them what they're really passionate about. So it's really been good.
That's great. Great to hear.
As we approach next school year, as we approach the fall, we're really going to want to promote these community engagement committees again, and we're going to turn to everybody to help recruit, because we need committee members. I mean, we don't know how many times we're going to meet. We're certainly going to meet twice a year, but you know, we're going to put a lot on our committee members in the next couple of years, and we welcome new faces all the time.
So especially with a committee such as the one reviewing curriculum, the current number of overall community members, is that still feeling adequate, or are you saying that you think there might even need to be more?
I feel like it's just adequate with the curriculum. I mean, we have we've had a lot of people that tell us that they were interested, and we have a smaller group that are been fully committed to see this through this year. We didn't really put a term limit on committee members, but I think kind of behind the scenes we just thought, you know, we don't want this to be a life sentence for people. So if we kind of expect up to 3 years from a volunteer on a committee, well, the curriculum committee is going to be in trouble in another year if we don't get some fresh faces in there. But yeah, we really would like to beef it up. We don't end the year with the same number of active participants as we start the year with, and we have a very ambitious year ahead of us. But we will, I think, when we promote it this summer, we'll reinforce on our part how relevant it is, the work that has been done, give people kind of a picture of this is the kind of thing that's gone on in the last year and a half, and this is what's going to go on in the next 2.5 years. Come be a part of it. So we'll do what we can to draw them in. People's lives are very busy. This is one of those things that you really do have an impact in the future and direction of our school district.
Absolutely. Any other comments? All right. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for presenting. All right. That will take us to the superintendent's report.
All right. Want to highlight a few things for you tonight. First of all, our operating revenues to date, we're tracking pretty well. You can kind of see how we're growing there. We're at 81.47% of our revenues at this point. I will say, and we may touch on this in the next chart as well, but the one thing I want to say about revenues is that we do still have, at the local level, we have roughly $500,000 of local property taxes that were paid in protest. So these are patrons within the school district who did pay their taxes, but they also protested their payment. And so what the county does is hold those while there's roughly a 90-day period while that's getting worked through. So usually what happens is whatever the protest amount is, the totality of it for us, we usually end up with most of that. The 500,000 is bigger than what we typically see. And so that's why I mention it, because the bar graph kind of shows that things are going up pretty well, but we're not worried about being short $500,000 at the end, but we would normally already have most of that money. So I do want to make that apparent to the board. And on the expenses side, we're tracking as expected. We're at 66% of our expenses. Health premium overages, as we did report last month, we were going to get up to $1.2 million in overage payments, which we have done. And we can certainly answer any questions on it now, but we do have a place in our budget proposal where we have a slide devoted to our trends and our proposed budget for health premiums and overages for next year. So we certainly will be talking about it later in the agenda as well. And then we're really pleased with our student attendance tracking. We're at 88.7%, and we've had a really good couple of months on student attendance, and it's probably one of the most important needles to move in schools is keep getting kids in school and keeping them in school. But when it's not going well for a student, it's one of the hardest things to turn around, because it really is a mindset shift, not only for the student, but the parents, whatever the situation is. And so I have to hand it to our administrators, counselors, teachers, everybody involved, working hard behind the scenes to get the kids in school. So we're really pleased with that 88.7 at this point in the school year. Any questions on any of those 4 graphs before I move on to a couple other highlights? All right, we do have something, I want to point out one of our curriculum projects that we have going on between now and the start of the school year. We are pleased to be able to work towards a new AP African American Studies program. So it was proposed as a new course, followed all the normal procedures. We were pleasantly surprised by the interest. We have about 60 students who have expressed early interest in this course. Usually what would happen is the thing about an AP course from the College Board, the program is all laid out. Like it's very rigorous. Everything is laid out. And so typically with a new AP course, what we would do is we would teach it for a year, and then that kind of gets that teacher acclimated to it, and then we would refine the curriculum. We kind of personalize it to Grain Valley. We want to handle this one a little bit differently, because that board approval of a curriculum is always an essential step. And this course, as excited as we are about this course in its current format, it has kind of a controversial past. When it was a pilot course, it got quite a bit of national attention. The College Board made some significant changes before they released it as a finalized course. We did not take it on when it was in pilot form. We didn't feel. I mean, I don't know that we have a history of piloting any AP courses. So this course has been modified quite a bit, and we're excited for the potential. The students who are interested in it, what we know about them is many of them, this will be, as juniors and seniors, this will be their first AP course. And the teacher who has offered to teach the course, these students are asking her all the time, how are we doing? Are we going to make this course? Is this going to happen? Like, they're so enthusiastic about this course. So it really has touched a positive nerve in our school. And so what we want to do, and the team, they didn't have to do this, and I wanted to make sure that if they couldn't do it right and do it in a tight time frame, then we weren't going to do it. But Dr. Gump and the team, they assure me they can pull this off. So they will personalize this curriculum to Grain Valley framework, and that will come back to the board yet this summer for pre-approval before we start this course. This was in Dr. Allen's report, but it's kind of a unique thing, and I just wanted to draw some extra attention to it for you. 2 other highlights that I want to draw out of the administrative report tonight. Focus for Grain Valley is a kind of quiet service organization, works behind the scenes, doing good things for our community. And this year, in their annual shoe drive for students, they provided brand new shoes, not just shoes, but a shoe shopping experience for 70 of our students. Just really, really remarkable. They deliver new shoes. They deliver that new shoe experience. When a student is nominated for shoes that they may have a need, then we quietly reach out to the family and we say, hey, we have an offer of shoes, and if there is any student in the home who needs shoes, then that one nomination will get all the kids new shoes. So we hand it to Focus for Grain Valley. We thank them for delivering 70 pairs of Dignity to kids in our community this winter. And then the last update, we're always working to update our facilities, and the high school track and field throwing area has been relocated. You probably, if you didn't go to watch the throwers, you probably never saw our throwing area. It was tucked away, and if you stumbled across it, it didn't look like a throwing area. but now you can't miss it. It's beautifully done. We have new shot put and discus. We have a new javelin lane. I didn't even know that was a thing because of how we were throwing the javelin before. I'm like, oh, how embarrassing that was. I didn't realize how embarrassing it was. So, but now that this project is done, and this was something that we talked about with the board, it's been a year, that the city has the Blue Branch Creek Trail that runs behind the high school in Snyabar there, and it dead ends at our property line. So now that we have this throwing area completed, now we feel comfortable going in there and mapping out a connection between their trailhead to our parking lot. There's also some work we want to do there to evaluate the outdoor classroom setup that is right adjacent to there. So we're ready to update the whole area, kind of finish it off. We don't know what the finish will be. Ultimately we want an asphalt connecting trail. But sometimes you get into a project and you lay the underlayment first and you have that for a season or two and let that get packed in, and then you come back with another budget year and then you do the asphalt. But either way, we're ready to update that. We think it will improve connectivity, not just for our students on school days, but to our whole community on nights and weekends. And just think about the people who live that are connected by a trail, who can walk for Friday night lights and not worry about driving their cars around to attend a football game. So we're ready to do our part. However, we are a school. It can't be a normal community trail. So with that transition between city property and school district property, we have some creative ideas to mark that transition so that when school's in session, people know that that trail is off limits while school's in session. So we're confident we can do that. We have a good partnership with the city, and we're pretty excited about that. And finally, in the calendar of events, there's a lot going. This is an exciting time of year. So it's a recap of all the calendar events of things that the school board is invited to. Next up is our Grain Valley High School Senior Awards Night on May 8th at the Jerry Mueller Performing Arts Center. It's where students get their scholarships and other awards for the years, including their school board scholarships. And then we've added the summer board meetings through August to your list here so that you have them at your fingertips. And I think we're locked in for August 15th for convocation. We've said that's what we're going to do. Have we hit any road bumps on that? It's good. So we're planning our back to school convocation on August 15th. I believe that's a Friday. That'll be at 8:30 a.m. The board is certainly invited to attend. It's kind of our company pep rally and celebration of years of service. So if it works out for you to start your day with us, we would be glad to have you. So we'd open up any questions on the summary or any aspect of the administrative report.
Are there any comments or questions?
Yeah, Dr. Gooch, on the convocation, are you going to be in a outfit again this year?
I knew what he was going to do.
You are?
Theme pending. It depends on how mean my colleague is to me.
Dr. Allen is very creative.
I will say I have no shame. However, it just depends on how creative Dr. Allen would like to get.
Yeah. Dr. Reich, on the focus group, is that an in-house organization? Is that a third-party organization that we're partnered with?
Yeah, come on up.
Yeah.
It's a community organization that's been around in Grain Valley for quite some time. So it's made up of all community members. Carol Barnes is an active participant, and she's our direct connection.
How does the word get out that events are coming up? Is there a mailing list, or is it just kind of word of mouth?
So our counselors reach out to their school, to the parents within their building, and really provide those names. And then that communication is done through our family school liaisons as well, really looking for families that would benefit from the service.
Okay. Is there a way that I could get the information? Maybe one of your staff members?
Of
Add me to the...
Of people
information
to,
list?
would you like to be involved with Focus for Green
Absolutely.
Valley? I can
Absolutely.
help to make
Thanks
that
for
happen.
simplifying.
Yeah, I gotcha. I absolutely will reach out
Okay.
to that group and let them know that you're interested in getting involved, because I do know that they're looking for that next iteration of volunteers, and they would be glad for the help.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
All right, are there any other questions or comments? If any of my fellow board members want to attend the awards night, please let me know. I will be there, and I'd welcome any of you to attend with me. So just let me know.
I do want to, if I could, Mr. President, this was a late add to your packet, and I intentionally didn't warn you ahead of time because I didn't expect you to read it ahead of time today. But we are very pleased to be able to launch a Valley Teacher Academy program. It's a teaching program that we've had going on a little while now. Nick Small teaches that at the high school, and these are high school students who aspire to be teachers. So we're giving them some incredible learning experiences while they are still high school students for us. And the attachment that you have in the board packet, it's just part of the board's packet, is the contract, and it lists out what we expect as they graduate from high school and they go on to college, and we want to stay connected with them because this is our Grow Your Own Teacher program. So we want them to go get trained. We want them to stay engaged with us as a school district while they're at college getting trained as a teacher. And then we want first crack at them when they're graduating from college. We want them to come back to their hometown and teach for us. And so there's a lot of great information in this contract, but there is one provision, the last bullet point on here is the big provision that requires an authorization from the board, and that is if participating in the high school program, staying connected with us through college, meeting the criteria that's listed here in this agreement, and you come back and teach for us, yes, we're going to put you on the first year teacher salary schedule, but because of your prior commitment of your pre-service training with us, we are going to reward those GVHS grads with $2,500 a year stipend for the first 4 years that they are gainfully employed with us as a full-time certified teacher. Now, we have some neighboring districts that are doing some other creative things like this. One or two that I can think of, they're giving $10,000 in scholarship to their high school graduates for college, and I think that's fantastic. But it comes with a commitment that they're going to come back, get a job, teach, and fulfill a certain amount of requirements, or that scholarship is treated as a loan that needs to be paid back. We've laid low on that. We've kind of watched that go on, and we feel like that maybe the approach that's best for us, is a good fit for us, is to not be in the loan payment program, and instead to reward them after the fact by giving them stipends their first 4 years as employees with us. But we will bring this back for discussion and a vote tonight. I kind of wanted to just kind of get your initial reaction and just whatever the first questions are that come to your mind hearing about it for the first time. Because we do want to be able to lock this in with this year's seniors. So this is kind of coming together yet this spring. And this provision, when we added this provision, it's like, ooh, we need the board. So we would entertain absolutely any question, crazy thought, anything you have tonight.
I have so it says that it guarantees an opportunity and guarantees an entry interview, but I think we definitely need, we still get the choice whether we hire them or not, right?
Correct.
Like, we don't, okay.
Yeah, that's correct. But I will say, and maybe it's just the rookie class, but we have some high school students that, I really hope they stick with it because right now they look like they're going to be amazing teachers. So we're really excited about what Mr. Small is doing with these students in this program.
So I guess my first question is, if this is a contract, has our legal representative looked at this?
I know that's underway. Have you heard back?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Second question, the $2,500 per year. In our contract with teachers, we have a stipulation where if you sign the contract and then you back out of the contract, there's a financial penalty. Here, this is all carrot and no stick. Do we need to, like, if you go 2 years and you get $5,000, can you then leave, or would you owe that money back?
That is the intent, that we treat each year as its own $2,500.
So no reimbursing the district if you walk away after 2 years?
That's not how we've initially framed it. We're trying to stay out of the administration of going after their money. Now, I would say, you mentioned, and you kind of touched on, when someone signs a contract, there's other provisions there. I will say it's probably worth reflecting, if somebody didn't finish a year, then there would be a penalty for them to exit their teaching contract. We would want to award this $2,500 upon the successful completion of their school year. So that'd be what I take from your question, that we can make sure that we're not paying the $2,500 on the front end of a year and then we're out that.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a
That
good
helps.
protection.
Okay, thank you.
What is the interest level of this, since, I'm guessing this is already being discussed?
To what extent do the students, the cadets, do they know this is in the works? Like, do we have an initial reaction?
They know that, so far, where we started the program last year, so we offered it to juniors or seniors, but it was all classroom instruction done by a master teacher. This year, those students who were juniors that are now seniors, it turns into a teaching cadet program. So now, Mr. Small oversees, they attend both Snyabar and Matthews and push into classrooms and get real classroom experience alongside his tutelage, basically. And then we have new juniors that started this year. And next year, the junior class is doubling in size. So it's like, it takes a little while for it to catch on, if you will. Just today, we took a team of 9 administrators into his classroom and interviewed 9 juniors or seniors who know they want to go into teaching after completing either 1 or 2 years of the program. And I would say that their interviews were better than some of the interviews I've conducted this spring with certified teachers, and they have 4 years to go. So very hopeful about the program. I will say in our conversations today, I asked, where do you intend to go? A couple are going to start at MCC, but they all have a plan for their next steps. And so our conversations today centered around, we have partnerships with certain colleges to have teachers come back and student teach, but not with every college. And just teaching the kids to advocate for themselves, that I'd like to come back to Green Valley and that we're open to those partnerships with any university, and trying to get students back, which is always a bit of a struggle. And what I would say is they have an enormous amount of interest, all of them, in returning to this area. And so we feel like this is even more support for that, and maybe in sharing this with their universities or their college if they're not currently a partner with us, that hopefully it'll build a little bit of a bridge as well to get us even more applicants, because that's kind of our goal after all. So the only thing that I think Mr. Small has mentioned so far is we were going to have some sort of social media presence, and that's LinkedIn, in which that they're going to follow to stay in connection so we can invite them back for professional development opportunities, because they've been invited to ours thus far while they've been in high school. So they know that that's coming, but we haven't even sent out the directions to sign up for their account, create their accounts, follow us, till we were through sort of the logistics part here, so.
So as far as the financial benefit, none of that
You're the
has
first
been-
to hear.
Yeah.
Would it kind of cap at that 4-year, $10,000 mark? Is that kind of the?
Yeah, we thought for a couple reasons. You become, you're getting close to 10-year, like we feel like we've gotten through some of that probationary period where we know if it's a great fit or not. Also, when you look at sort of our salary schedule, the further you get, the more years you get, the healthier or better our certified salary schedule looks. So where we struggle to compete, I would say, is our first couple years. And so we thought maybe that bit of incentive would maybe hook them to coming back here versus a neighbor that might be slightly higher those first couple years. I should say kids. Recent graduates struggle sometimes to see that $2,000 isn't going to change their lives. They just see $2,000 more and go to a neighboring district. So we thought, well, if this could fill that gap a little bit, so we felt really competitive with our top candidates, that maybe that would help us.
How far would that $10,000 go? Is that an enticing enough number to make a dent?
We compared it to what our other Grow Your Own programs are doing, and this is the exact same as what Lee Summit's doing. Blue Springs is doing the same amount, but in reverse, where they're paying it ahead of time as scholarship, as Dr. Welly just explained. So we feel like the amount is extremely competitive.
Do you have?
Go ahead.
Do you have other requirements to get into the program? Like, for example, you'd have to be 18 to sign this contract, right? So is there a list of other requirements that we have?
To get into Valley Teacher Academy, or just to be part of the graduating agreement?
I guess to get into to get into the academy, you wouldn't sign this, right? You would only sign this at the end, and you would be 18 to sign this. Is there any other, like?
You had to be 2 years or 1 year with us, or does it?
Yeah,
Is there a minimum number of high school years where you've been on a teacher prep program?
Yeah, no convictions. Like, there's a list of things there that we don't want. And I just want to make sure, and so I've barely skimmed this, so I'm just kind of reacting to it. It may be buried in here, but I'm just curious where the detail is. Is that on another sheet?
Maybe it's too subtle, but in the
Okay.
first sentence, when it says, this agreement is entered into by the selected Valley Teacher Academy participant, that would give us the right to not just blanket, you get a contract and you get a contract.
Yeah.
This would really be for those who did the cadet teaching that we are seeking out as a really good fit we see for Green Valley.
That context helps. Thank you.
Yeah.
So one question I guess I would have, based on the age that you just brought up, Mr. English, of 18 to sign this, I know that we do have graduates that are 17.
We can, I would say, I mean, I was a 17-year-old graduate 400 years ago, but, usually it's a summer birthday. So we would establish that LinkedIn connection where we're in communication with the graduate. And that's something that I think we would stay in contact with and could sign easily even before they headed off to school. I feel pretty confident in that we would have that ongoing connection. Even the students we interviewed today all emailed us about their excitement and, us giving our time today. I mean, these are committed kids, or students or future teachers. So I feel confident that at whatever phase this is, and again, this wouldn't be something done in front of the classroom because we might not want to invite this to every student. While we have a separate, just an email about following us on LinkedIn to stay in connection. That would be for everybody. But this actual contract would be for those selected.
I am going to pick your brain at probably out of this meeting, but what you can be thinking about what it takes for other universities to partner with us for that student teaching situation. I know in talking with some, such as I think Evangel, I don't know that we have a partnership with them, how the other colleges can join us. So I don't need to talk about it now, but just something that.
We actually had a student today who's going to Evangel, and she said they partner with St. Joe, and really it's just location. So their professors have to go out and see them in the field. So if their professors have to go out to see students in the field that are 2 hours away, 4 hours, depending on where all the students live, that's taxing on their teaching staff. So they really tend to, I don't know, in my experience, within 2 hours, I would say, is really where we develop most of our partnerships, but we're totally open to it. It's just getting that connection that they're willing to have somebody drive and observe here. So we continue to reach out. We just partnered, a new one was Mizzou this year. So we're getting some student teachers from Mizzou for the first time this year. So that's 2 hours. We're branching out a little bit. We're also working with UCM's always been a partner, but their special education student teachers always all go to Blue Springs, and we've got 2 coming here this year. So we're working on it, but the logistics of location tend to be our hang up.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on the Valley Teacher Academy contract?
Thank you very much.
We also do have the financial summary in with the superintendent's report, if any members had any questions on that before we moved on. Seeing none, we will move to the state legislative highlights.
Two big issues that we'll track, continue to track here the last few weeks of the Missouri legislative session. House Bill 711, which is the open enrollment bill. It was voted out of the Senate Education Committee last week. It could have been debated on the Senate floor this week. I was trying to track today if it got picked up today, and I didn't get to it late in the afternoon. So, but certainly if it didn't get discussed on the Senate floor today, it is definitely going to get discussed next week. So we'll track that. The Senate Education Committee did make 3 changes to the House bill. First, they have written in that charter school participation would be added to the language. Second, the cap on the number of students who can leave a district in 1 year was increased from 3% to 5% per year, which is a significant change. However, in kind of the behind the scenes stories that we hear is that it's probably going to go back to 3, but they want to communicate the understanding that if it started at 3, then it would go to 4, then it would go to 5. So we'll see what. Right now it's at 5%, but we'll see what the final language holds once it gets through the Senate floor. Third, the requirement for transportation to be provided by the non-resident districts in the program was removed from the bill. So that would have been an additional cost that any receiving school district would have had to bear that would not have been recouped or not guaranteed to have been recouped. So we're tracking that bill and its implications. And then the other thing is just the funding. So the Senate Appropriations Committee added $300 million, nearly $300 million to fully fund the foundation formula. So this additional money would result in the state adequacy target being fully funded at $7,145 per pupil. That would be significant. That's the way the formula is supposed to work. But the governor in his State of the State address had indicated that he was not recommending that $300 million be added to the budget for next year. And the House version of the bill that was passed to the Senate complied with the recommendation of the governor and was missing that $300 million. So this is the Senate Appropriations Committee. Again, this will go to the full Senate floor next week. Gives the Senate 2 weeks to vote out this and other budget bills, and then convene conference committees between the 2 chambers and get their approval by a constitutional deadline for next year's budget by May 9th. So there's a lot of excitement to happen literally in the days ahead at the state level. We have a preliminary budget presentation for you tonight on the agenda, and it assumes a flat state adequacy target, which is what the governor asked for. So rather than speculate on all of the changes that would happen as we go through that, we'll highlight a couple of key things that we would bring back to the board with any level of funding above and beyond flat formula funding. So we'll talk about that tonight too.
So just for clarity on HB 711, the removal of the transportation piece is saying that if we had students from Blue Springs that transferred to Grand Valley, we do not have to transport them to Grand Valley.
That's correct. That would be the responsibility of the parent. And my understanding is that the parent's ability to get reimbursed for that transportation was also removed from the bill. So it kind of removes that whole section of the bill. That's my understanding.
Okay. Very good. Any other statements, questions, comments on the legislative update? All right. That takes us to the Finance Committee meeting minutes from April 15th meeting.
Yeah, this group just met recently, and we wanted to preview with them what you're going to see tonight. So if you peruse these minutes, you've got a pretty good preview of your budget presentation tonight.
Any questions on the minutes? Very good. We will move on to unfinished business, and we will start with the annual priorities progress update.
Okay, this is the time of year where we kind of try to button this up and share with the board. Are we hitting our goals for the year? Is there anything that needs to carry over? How do they evolve? So I am pleased to report that for all of our priorities this year, we are landing where we expected to at the end of the school year. So that's, I'll go ahead and give you the reveal there. Priority number 1, I think it's on page 3 maybe is where it starts. This is academic multi-tiered systems of support for grades K through 8, tiers 2 and 3. And we broke that down into 4 different sections, providing professional development to teachers on the academics. We wanted to initiate additional cohorts of letters training and Orton Gillingham, that's the OG training. That's a specialized reading intervention instruction that's pretty well known. The third one is continuation of reading success plans for any K-5 student with a significant reading deficiency. Also included in there is to address weekly chronic absenteeism in our elementary schools. That's a requirement from the state, and so that's how we work that in, and I do credit the efforts of everybody involved in that for having attendance that is stronger at this point this year than what we've seen in several years. And then the last one, number 4 there, is to continue to track and assess reading intervention progress. So then if you would go to the next page for the April update, you'll notice that April update is shown in green, which shows that we are hitting our target. And then the four numbers there correspond to the 4 measures. So our elementary teachers have done 3 professional development sessions on MTSS, and our middle school teachers have had 4 sessions, and ongoing support towards fidelity will remain in place next school year. And so you'll see that back in some variation. The second one, a new cohort of Orton Gillingham began in March, and another one is scheduled. That would bring, when that's completed, that brings the total of our teachers that are specially trained to 81%. So we're really getting to that point where if there is somebody who hasn't voluntarily taken us up on the opportunity, it's going to get harder for them to hide. And I say that a little tongue in cheek, but a lot of it is a commitment, and so sometimes it's just scheduling. People's lives are busy, but seriously though, it's going to be harder to avoid that training. Our goal is to get everybody. Number 3 are these bi-weekly school attendance team meetings.
Can I jump in on that real quick? So on that, when you say that, is that something that they do during a school day, or is that on their own time?
So there's lots of options. We offer cohorts in fall, spring, and summer. They are in multiple time zones. So if they choose during the school year, they would be given release time. So they're given a substitute to do that 5 days. Usually it's about 1 a week. There's various schedules. You can even split it out to 1 a month. They just have a lot of options. For summer, it is out of contract time, so they do receive a stipend for completing that because it's above and beyond their contract time. So really, they get the choice. Like, do you want to take some of your summer and do this? I saw one of our teachers posted on Facebook the other day, I love finishing my training at home out on her back deck. Like she did it, later hours and had a sub for the day. So there's a lot of freedom, I feel like, in choosing when and how you partake of the training.
And do all the staff members know that this is going to be, they're going to have to do this at some point?
Yes, so K-5 especially, our principals have been very communicative with all groups. When's a good time for you're in the middle of your master's right now, not a great time. Let's move on to this group. We'll come back to you next year. We're really trying to partner with people in their schedules, and we could still hit that small 5% that just are doing their master's or their specialist or have 3 babies at home. It's just a really rough time, and at that point, we have some teachers who were letters trained and now want OG trained because they feel like it goes above and beyond the letters training. So we could pick up a few of those. We have some middle and high that work with some of our at-risk students who move in. And so they would be a great candidate. So we will make good use of continuing our cohorts of training one way or the other.
Okay, very good.
Word has spread about that this is some of the best training a teacher could have. So our teachers have been highly motivated to get it, and they feel left out if they're not on the list. So that seems to be the case for the most part.
I have one more question on that.
Yep.
Sorry. So do building admins, or is it just strictly in classroom staff members that would be doing this?
It's almost like a case study. So if you don't have students, it's really, you can't participate
Okay.
in it. They do have some training for administrators about letters, about OG. Some of our admin are OG trained because they've done it. Well, I should say letters, you have to have students. You can do OG without, I believe. Is that right?
They make a special like virtual training that you can do as an administrator specifically for OG.
Yeah, it's just
So you know
can
what to
take-
look for, and you know
Exactly.
how to
It's
support the
designed
teachers.
for that administrator lens. So instead of applying it directly with students, you're looking at it from the administrator lens.
Yeah, it's just different. I will say the first group that we trained was our instructional coaches group, because we have one at each elementary school. And so they have been really integral in kind of implementing it, but we do have several administrators who've taken advantage. So it hasn't become a requirement for all yet at this point, but we definitely have a person in a leadership position at every building the teachers can go to for help with implementation.
All right, thank you.
Nope, very good. Just wrapping up number 3 there, school-to-home communications and parent engagement are more consistent across the schools. And these biweekly attendance meetings, we expect to continue them next year. They've been really successful, and whatever new strategies result to continue to improve attendance, probably going to come out of these team meetings. And then number 4, the final round of iReady assessments will occur in May following the state assessments. So that's our update on that. Priority number 2 was our curriculum audit and then mapping out what the next couple of years look like. And so I'm going to skip ahead to the April update on the next page, that the curriculum courses for summer writing and development have been set for August 4th through 7th. We had to punt a little bit once we lost that week in between, the week of Memorial Day, but that's okay. The team is flexible. They're figuring it out. Middle school and high school courses that began last summer are wrapping up yet this spring. And there it is, 67 courses are scheduled or in progress for development at this time. And the curriculum committee, again, as you know, met on April 14th and looked at the most recent 8 curriculum courses that are ready for board approval.
Can I ask a question on that? So would that be something that, like if I wanted to go just see what the process was, I could just stop by?
Join a curriculum committee meeting?
Just on this curriculum development, yeah, just.
Oh, August 4th through the 7th?
Right.
So we do 4 days of training, and I think this is important for you to know.
Absolutely.
The first day of training, for the first half of the day, is the actual training of
Right.
how to write. The remaining time are teachers collaborating in their content groups writing. And so they may have occasional questions, but you'll see people working. So it depends on what you'd like to see, but of course, you're more than welcome. But the instructional period is right at the start of those 4 days, and then the rest of the time, what you're going to witness is just teachers collaborating and poring over standards and scales, so.
Very good.
Just let us know when to expect you. The next priority is Tier 1 character education. This has been very well received this year. We were piloting programs the previous school year. This is the first year that we all said, hey, everybody K-5 is going to do the same thing. Everybody 6-12 is going to do the same thing. So our April updates, because we surveyed the teachers this spring on how they feel it's going, highlights a strong appreciation for the structured year-long teaching schedule, which has effectively supported staff in delivering the lessons consistently. Teachers report feeling positive about the resources, noting that the website's easy to use and the materials are accessible, efficient, time effective. Most importantly, staff have observed a positive shift in students' character skills and the language they use with one another, so they're applying those skills. That's especially true at the elementary level. We're seeing kids starting to treat each other better using the strategies and the language that they're learning in their character education courses. So that's the whole point. Our recommendation for next year includes reflecting on the scope and sequence and making needed adjustments to make sure it meets the needs of our students. Additionally, we'll continue to work to ensure the carryover of student learning into their day-to-day interactions with others. While our pre-K through fifth grade resources have shown to be really easy to use, work is underway to improve the ease of our secondary resources, and a lot of those changes have already been done. And the teachers at this point in the school year, they're very, very specific on what would have been helpful. We were able to get that accomplished, so we expect a really good year too on our development of those. Any questions on number 3? Number 4 is to deliver, our priority was to deliver professional development for Tier 2 behavior supports for elementary and middle school kids, and the elementary Tier 2 supports were fully implemented this year. The middle school teams have plans for ongoing implementation of Tier 2 for next school year, and the middle school Tier 2 intervention menu will be developed for ease of use. So we kind of started one step ahead at the elementary level. We continue to be one step ahead at the elementary level. So we've really, it feels like we're wrapping up this year where we can say we're fully implemented elementary. They will continue to need support. That's the thing about implementation. You can't take your eye off of it or it'll slip from you. But we do acknowledge that the middle school teams, we want to make sure we're there for them as they are developing their, really getting fidelity in how they support student behaviors. I will say that as we do the roundings at each of the schools, no matter who we're talking to at the middle school, the fact that, on the outside, our middle schools seem really big. They seem like they have a lot of students. But when you talk to the teachers in our middle schools, they talk like they're just this family. And we've come a long way that if you are a student in one of our middle schools and you have your teachers, but then you have all these other adults in the building that you may or may not know who these adults are, like our students have figured out that all the adults are on the same page. And we hear that from the teachers at both buildings. And when you think about developmentally how nutty it is to be a middle schooler anyway, like for the adults to be surrounded by loving, caring adults who have high expectations for you and they're consistent, like it's the best possible environment to be a middle school kid. So we're really pleased with the hard work that our teams have done at both of our middle schools on that. Any questions on the behavior side of things? Priority number 5 was our long-range facilities plans. We wanted to get that updated. We had Nicole Young at our last workshop, so she shared the highlights from that, and you approved those long-range planning documents in consent agenda today. But I just want to highlight a couple of findings. K-12 enrollment's projected to remain relatively flat over the next 10 years or increase by up to 200 students, which that's what we've been seeing over the last few years. So unless something major happens, either economically in the region, I was just reading about the group that is moving in at the Sprint campus, and that kind of got my attention because of the number of jobs that's going to bring. For every 80 or so new jobs created in the metro, that's a Grain Valley student. That's what the statistics say. So if the Kansas City metro economy is getting stronger and we're growing jobs in the metro, then we can expect student growth. And that is a stronger correlation than the number of homes that we're building. I say that, but the first time that somebody's proposing a new development that has 600 to 1,000 homes in it, and that's going to be within our school district, we will certainly be paying attention to that potential for growth. And then the next bullet point on this is that although we are approaching capacity K-5, adding a few classrooms to existing elementary schools may make more sense in the short term than committing to elementary number 5 at this time. And we're going to circle back with the board as soon as June to kind of revisit what our bonding capacity is for April of 26, and then which of our priority needs from a growth standpoint, what's feasible so that we can get the board's reaction to what we're thinking on that. Anything on long-range planning? Any questions on priority number 5?
Not really a question, kind of a comment as you were talking about growth in the area. I think next year is the World Cup, which will bring a lot of temporary jobs, and we probably want to make sure that we exercise some discipline because we may see a quick uptick, but it may fall back as those things sort of move away from the area.
That's a good point because, you know, I don't know that our area has ever experienced anything like that. And maybe some of those jobs or some of those people, we might start seeing them as soon as this summer. And so I think that is an important note. Maybe they all have kindergarten students.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the,
And they got on the early registration.
yeah, it was a prereq. You had to have a 5-year-old to come work the World Cup. So very good. Priority number 6 is our safety plan. And gosh, there's a lot of big things that have happened. We highlighted some of those here. The phase 2 window film is now completed. So we've updated all window film at all of our schools, our district facilities. Classroom phones will be installed and programmed this summer. So the teachers are really excited about that. And it sounds like such an old technology to be excited about in the modern age, but the teachers appreciate the fact that they can have a private conversation. If they've got a student or they've got an issue in their classroom, they don't have to rely on the intercom in the middle of the classroom on the ceiling. They can have a quieter conversation and be a little bit more specific about what they need and how they need it while protecting privacy. It also makes it easier for teachers to be responsive with phone calls, returning calls to parents, because they have easy access to their voicemail. They get parents a call back during the workday from their classroom while they're on their plan time or lunch or whatever. So the teachers are really excited about that commitment. And then our bus camera system, those updates have been completed. So I haven't heard much about how much everybody loves the new capabilities, but we know that there were some pretty good capabilities happening there. So we look forward to hearing more about that. And then the exterior door numbering system at each school, we just, again, follow industry standards. And as you pulled up, maybe as you're leaving tonight, you'll notice that the exterior doors on this building are numbered a certain way, like 1-1 or 2-2. And we want that consistent system throughout our entire school district. So we are making sure that is getting done. Also included, there were other smaller things that were done that Dr. Gooch is tracking, but the other bigger things is the cyber response plan, and the remaining district level planning is being uploaded into the EOP, that emergency operations plan, through MSBA, and also with the integration of trauma response and crisis response plans. Those have been integrated into the EOP as well. So next year, the EOP side of things, we're going to focus on training. Remains to be seen if that justifies this being highlighted as a priority. But as we talk more about priorities and the things that the board wants to see, this or maybe some other safety aspect might be something that the board decides they want quarterly updates on next year from a safety and emergency planning standpoint.
I have a question on that. I know in our audit, when the visitors were here for the safety, that they went through and students had open doors or certain doors were unlocked or things like that. Is there any internal audit that we can do to make sure all classroom doors are locked, that's a standard practice at every school? Especially, it's a good reminder this time of year, there is a lot of stuff going on. There is a lot of a celebration. There's a lot of events. Yep. We ask a lot of visitors to come to our schools. So just making sure that we know that locking doors is the number one way to keep kids safe in a lot of ways, preventing barriers in those situations. So just a fidelity check.
That's great.
As we're looking at safety, and those are the things that we always have within our control.
A year ago when we were talking about this move, about having locked doors all day, we knew the statistics and we knew how important it was. That's why we did it. But we were also worried because we were worried about any possible negative impact on climate and culture, because our schools are like family and people can come and go. But then we got off to such a smooth start in the fall on implementing it. It was just so incredibly smooth. Now here we are at the end of the school year, and I do think it would be easy to let our guard down, and I didn't mean the pun, to get caught up. So Dr. Gooch, is there anything you want to add about anything that's underway or anything this spring?
Well, I would just like to add that
from a fidelity standpoint.
Yeah, we have great school resource officers and administration that will go through and kind of do a little self-audit of their own buildings just to ensure that if there's doors that are left open, those are being addressed internally. And then I mean, we have Officer Pereira here tonight, but we also have others that will do perimeter checks of their own buildings just to see if they can, you know, find an open door and things like that. So just a good, and if they were to find something, report it to the administration and just, you know, to spearhead that reminder of our staff to do that. So we do have people that are actively doing that right now still. So, and actually, as a matter of fact, I sent out a communication to our school resource officers not too long ago saying, hey, it's going to be that time for myself to go and do some walkthroughs with them in the coming weeks too, as we get closer to the end of the year and things can become a little bit more open as classes seem to maybe go outside or whatever. So I'll be doing it with the 4 of them myself too.
I have noticed that and we know that administrators are familiar with the door equipment throughout their buildings, but as the SROs have gotten more comfortable with the ins and outs of their own facilities that they supervise, that it has led to, it doesn't take much for an exterior door to have a latch that once it gets serviced, gets worked on, something gets tightened up or adjusted. If that doesn't do the trick, if it's not consistent functioning the way it's supposed to, they're ordering fresh hardware. And it was just a year ago, we replaced doors and windows at 2 of our schools because they were steel, they were aging, they were swelling, rust in areas, and they were needing to be pulled shut or secured in other ways, and they were all replaced with aluminum doors and windows, and that was a significant improvement. And those are all safety and security things. They look nice, but those are there to keep our schools secure. And so everybody involved has been very responsive to make sure that everything is working properly.
Right. I mean, we do still have trouble spots, and when we do find those, and I will tell you, a lot of times they are found by our staff. You know, they are reported. Operations department will come kind of assess it, and you know, parts are ordered same day. Sometimes it might take a few days for it to get there, and in the meantime, everybody who is aware of it, who might have a classroom in that vicinity, is very, very diligent about making sure it's pulled and shut and so on. So I would say our staff also does a really good job of just kind of checking their own building themselves too. So I think that's just because of the culture that we've established and the you know, the focus on security. I feel like that's our staff's taking it very seriously, and I'm very grateful for that.
Dr. Gooch, the budget overages for Priority 6, I'm assuming those are still coming from the 23 bonds, the money?
You are correct.
Did any other area suffer?
No.
Okay, so maybe we just move quicker on things and...
Yeah, we were able, and really what it was is we were able to add things that we would, you know, if there weren't funds there, it would have been, all right, well, let's potentially push that to the next budget year or to a potential next bond project that we were able to accommodate with this one. So
it'd be a good priority to be over on the budget on.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good
Thank
one.
you.
On the other items that have budgets to them, if we're over on some of those, are they getting funded by other areas that didn't necessarily meet like the budget need?
I mean, yeah, without speaking about the entire budget, yes. If there was, you know, if we had something budgeted at, you know, 70,000 and it came in at 85, yeah, what we would do is Mr. Hooper would make a budget amendment within that area of the budget to accommodate that overage. And, you know, there are going to be places in other areas where, you know, the expenses didn't quite meet what we had budgeted. They came under, and so we would really just move funds from one fund to the other.
You know, tracking how we're doing on these priorities, that's a new feature this year, but it kind of highlights and showcases for the board that when you say something is a priority, then it's the thing you do. And if it costs you another $10,000 to do it, then you figure that out in other places in the budget because this is the priority. So I'm glad you guys you pointed that out.
Yeah, and I would say Dr. Welly pointed it out that this is something new for us. And as recent as today, Mr. Hooper and I both talked about, you know, as we prepare for next year's priorities, other ways to start building coding and stuff like that within our budget to make this even better and easier for us. So, and more, it's easier for us to track down what we have to do.
The true cost for the
Yeah,
priority,
it's-
because some priorities are pretty straightforward because they're one thing, one time.
Yeah.
But there are other priorities that we have to pull several things from lots of different places.
Yep.
Yep.
So that led me to a different question on priority 2, with the budget being 62,000 and and the majority of the costs not being spent yet. I'm assuming because that was for the curriculum writing, which was going to be in May, but now going to be in August in a new budget year. How does that work?
Well, Dr. Allen was, as soon as we were figuring out how we're going to make up our snow days, she brought us what became characterized as the $50,000 issue. Dr. Allen, you want to speak to how you're navigating that?
Well, after wheeling and dealing with our director of finance, we essentially just added it to next year's budget. I mean, it's the short version.
Because we're underspending by 50,000 this year, but we're gonna have 2 cycles next year.
Well, and if you remember in our strategic planning meetings, when you turned to me and said, do we have money for more OG cohorts? The answer was yes. And that was because we're not spending all of this money on curriculum writing, but we have budgeted in for it for next year. So,
I mean, in theory, it's in the ending fund balance. So we just got that, and it will just means it's higher, basically by the 60,000 or 50,000. So we'll have it for next year.
Okay.
Very good.
Good eye. You hit a nerve. The rest of us didn't want to relive that one.
All right, any other questions on the annual priorities? All right, thank you. That will take us to the draft 2025-2026 budget.
Okay. I'm going to get this started, but then you're going to be done listening to me talk, and we're going to let Mr. Hooper do some talking once we get into this. But he and Dr. Gooch have done a lot of work behind the scenes to put this budget together. But I want to get it started just on the narrative side. Our goal is to create a budget that addresses the priorities of the school district, our strategic plan, and adequately providing for the needs of the district with an eye on sustainability. It's really easy to any given year to dive in head first financially into something, but the responsible thing to do is to be looking ahead to say, is this sustainable year after year? So we have to keep an eye on that. The budget proposal reflects what we know at this time. The state legislature is working on their budget at this time. The state adequacy target is flat at 6,760 students. If and when more money is added to the state adequacy target or the SAT, we'll come back and build off of the budget that we already have, and we will modify that. And the two big factors that'll go into more money will be, first, that we will look at the raises we were able to do to the base of the teacher schedule, salary schedule, and then comparably to everybody else. And then the second thing will be there are additional FTEs that we wish we were able to do for next school year that aren't currently in the budget because we don't have the funds for them. So those are things that we will certainly modify in the weeks ahead before we bring this back to the board again. This budget also includes local funding that's based on projected 2025 property assessments, and those are the amount that we will, no matter what the property assessment growth is, we are capped by CPI. So we already know what CPI is, and so that number is pretty easy for us to build into the budget at this time already. We are recommending pay increases of $500 to the teacher base with comparable percentage for non-certified and administration salary schedules. And again, that's where we're starting. If we get more money, we'll revisit that. Our budget will be fiscally responsible effort, and information this is the fine print. Information in its presentation is preliminary, does not reflect the final budget. All right, our priorities. When we look at this, kind of the big picture things we're trying to do is maintain our class sizes within district standards. We want to address the increasing costs of meeting the academic and behavioral needs of our students. It's not getting any cheaper or less complicated. We want to provide competitive pay for our team members. And new this year is we want to expand extracurricular opportunities for middle school students. So that's been a priority by the board, and the budget needs to reflect that. We're following our standard budget prep timeline. So here we are in April. We're reviewing preliminary budget summary, and that's what tonight's presentation is. Grain Valley by the numbers, just a couple of things. Just want to highlight on our full-time equivalents, we've got 311 teachers, and then all those together, we have 729 FTEs, 729 employees. And then just below that, we're real proud of the fact that 80.6% of our teachers have master's degrees. Not only does that show their commitment to their own professional growth and development and how that translates into student learning, but it moves them over on the pay scale too, and we're really glad to be able to maximize our pay for 80% of our teachers who have accomplished that goal. Also, I want to point out that our square footage, it's in the lower left hand there under the buildings in orange. The square footage of our building space, 781,000 square feet. That's up by more than 200,000 square feet since the last time we updated. Those are the recent phases at the high school that have been added. So, want to look at our K-12 student enrollment trends. It continues to be plateaued pretty well, although we did see a pretty good uptick this year. And it is now, by a little bit, it's the highest October 1st student count that we have had in our history. But if you look at how it's trending, it really is remaining relatively flat, slow growth overall. I know this is going to look like a cheap shot that I step off at this next slide, talking about funding medical expenses. But this is where I do want Mr. Hooper to pick it up and. But I don't have any trouble piping in if I want to add something. So, Mr. Hooper, if you don't mind taking it from there.
Well, I'm going to keep it simple. This graph here, we're looking for the budget for next year. We have budgeted an increase in the overages, $100,000 from the $800,000 that we did this year to $900,000, and that's just kind of looking at as we're at the $1.2 million so far this year. We didn't feel like we could back that off, even though we are also budgeting an increase for the board paid amount for each employee at $755, or up from $755 to $800 per month, which equates to a $540 per employee per year increase for the board paid portion of that. And the total impact on that is around $331,000. Now that isn't all healthcare, because there will be some retirement in that as well, but not a huge number, but there will be some retirement in that as well. So that's kind of how we're looking at this. So you can see we're really a little higher than we were budgeted this year and estimating this year, but that's kind of what we did right now. So anything on that? Okay. The next slide here just shows our some of the major revenue budget items. So we do have an increase, an estimated increase in real property tax. And that's, again, based off of the most recent assessed valuation that Jackson County provided us in that CPI cap that Dr. Welly talked about, which is at 2.9. And then also in this assumption was that the new construction revenue was going to be the same as last year. So, again, that could fluctuate a little bit up or down depending on how that really comes in. But we're looking at an increase of $741,973. Proposition C, that's projected to be a decrease, and that's just the way the state's formula and how they're going to fund it next year is lower than what this year is. The M&M surtax increase is based off of the actuals for this current year. So just kind of we know what the actuals are now, and we just went up to the actuals for next year. Then the increase in SAT, it's kind of a mixture of things. Because as it said, you say we budgeted flat. Well, then how's there an increase? Well, the increase is based on the fact that they have changed the weighted ADA formula, or the formula for the calculation. Now it's the weighted ADA along with membership for September and January. There's a percentage of that membership now. So because of that, the change, we have a windfall of some money on that. I will just point out that the 680 there for the SAT and then the decrease of 284,000, those really kind of net together because they relate to the same thing. So really, SAT, we're getting 400 and some thousand, as opposed to that, it just looks funny, but they're both related. And then we have the increase for the 169-day incentive that we're anticipating. Anything on this?
So the 169-day incentive is, we know that's going to move forward already?
As far as I know, I haven't heard anything different.
Yes, the piece that we were hoping for that was up in the air is that we would get a reprieve to not have to come back to school after Memorial Day. That's not going to happen, but I think they're going to fix that moving forward. So if we have another bad winter, we wouldn't have to. Basically, we would get credit for having approved a schedule of 169 days. We didn't have to actually make up all 169 days. So that's still the piece that's up in the air. But this is funded, and we are going to qualify as long as we're back in school after Memorial Day a couple days.
Well, I guess my question is, this budget that we're looking at now is for 25-26, not
correct
24-25.
It's paid out. It's not paying out until next year. So even though
So
we hit
what
the
we
one-
do this year isn't
Correct.
getting, okay.
Correct. We're hitting the 169 this year, but they're not going to pay it until next year.
You
All
get
right.
rewarded 1 year later.
Got it. So do we know if for the next year it's going to be in place?
It's supposed to be, and does it go to 2% already the next year?
think it- yeah, I
So
think
so
it
this will roughly double a year from now.
Okay. Next thing here is on the expenditure, some of the major expenditure items. So going through and looking at our increases there.
Can't help
It's kind of pretty self-explanatory, but increasing the base in the salaries, increase to the base salary and the step increase is going to be a $1,083,127 increase. Again, that increase to the board insurance contribution of the $331,000, and then the increase in the healthcare overage payment of $100,000. There is a decrease this year in special education non-salary expenses, and that is mainly due to not having students that are having the needs to go out of district like we've had in the past. So that's allowing their expenses to go down a little bit. Again, with that caveat is we don't have any currently, but if someone moves into the district, we have to provide it. That goes away. So there's always a little bit of hesitancy on saying, oh yeah, great, it's going to be low, because it could go away really, really quickly. And then the last two items basically is a decrease, and this was in here because of a slide that we don't have finished yet, but you'll see in the final presentation. It looked really weird that our budget was less than what it was last year, and the reason for that, the big decrease, is because of we had $419,000 budgeted for buses last year that is not in the budget this year. And then we had an extra $850,000 budgeted for the remodel of the kitchen in the high school for last year that we don't have in this year. So that's why those numbers are in there.
I'm gonna jump in on, we talk about the SAT could dial up a little bit here in the next few weeks, and primarily that'll impact salaries and benefits because of the potential for additional money into the system and for new positions that we're holding out for. But in terms of other things that we would purchase, there is an opportunity, just looking at this decrease in the transportation budget of $419,000. Depending on what the SAT does, we may consider pre-ordering replacement propane buses that we would have done the following year. We may get them ahead of schedule because we're worried that some of those rebates and grants are going to be coming up to an end. And so if we could get, for example, if we could get 4 buses for the price of 3 with the rebates, and we have increased SAT, then, I mean, if we've already done the pay increases we want to do with a new SAT, we add a couple more FTEs, priority positions for next year, and we can still buy propane buses at a discount, then we'll do that too. Otherwise, we'll figure it out. If the rebates go away for a couple of years, it may be that we do some other creative things with our buses to try to get a couple years more life out of them. But we're just worried that some of the renewable energy grants and promotions maybe are going to go away in the short term. So I just want to maybe circling back with you on that in the next month or two. Thank you, Mr. Hooper.
So the next slide here is just showing a listing out of our reoccurring additions and deductions. I'm not really going to read through all those unless you really want me to. But you can just see these are the new, either new positions, basically the new positions that we're going to add this year, totaling $335,617.
And the board has, I'm looking at this list, the board has approved most of these already. I don't believe we have had you add any special ed paras yet, but we had in our priority FTEs 2 to 4 listed. So we're pretty sure in the short term we're going to need 2. So you could see that as soon as the May meeting. But most of the rest of these you have been approving along the way this spring.
I just had one question. We also have on tonight's agenda, like the priority new FTE positions. It's not reflected on this slide or what we've talked. I mean, so I know that we still have some things to talk about, but there are some that are not here.
Some on the, which page is missing them?
So the reason that he added the priority FTE positions, it was just for a reference. You and I talked about that. So we just added it because as we talked through the budget, these were positions that we've already discussed and said, yeah, we're going to move forward with them. Or admin has determined that for sure these are the ones they're going to try and add. The other ones are just a list of the wish list that nothing's been done with yet.
Okay, so that was just a conversation you all had.
We wanted to have it as a reference point tonight.
I was just confused, like, for a list of the other one were listed.
Yes.
Yeah, it got added at the last minute.
Thank you.
So the next slide there is just the kind of the snapshot of our revenues and our expenditures overall. And again, this is operating, so it does not include any Fund 30 or bond stuff. And then there really right now is not anything for next year, any bond budget in there, so it doesn't include any bond related items. So you can see the total revenues estimated right now is $64,106,205. You can kind of see the breakout there. I will note, and I think I kind of look back at last year's to see if that changed, if these two graphs changed much. Local went up about 2%, but I think some of that is basically because right now the state we haven't shown any increase. So if they actually do increase the SAT, I think you're going to see them shift back to the 48% that it was, or get closer to kind of the same percentages that they were last year. And then on the total expenditures right now, $64,007,999. Should have added one more dollar for an even 8,000. But again, the screenshot there is pretty much that the graph is pretty much the same as what it was last year. So right now we are looking at a favorability or overage a little bit of 98,206. Which funny, last year it was like 99,000 negative. So we're staying really close to the 99s or 98s, but just different signs this year. So the next here is just a list of federal revenues. Really, right now, Perkins in the high needs for the SPED high needs part, IDA Part B, title, all of those things. Those are estimates because we don't have the numbers yet for this year. They typically come out late April or mid-May. So the DESE seems to be a little slower on some of the stuff this year. I know you can't imagine with the federal stuff being slower. So hopefully we'll get those numbers by mid-May and then be able to put the real numbers to it for the next presentation. But at the same time, the IDEA, the title, and Perkins, it's really a net zero effect to the budget because the revenues equal the expenditures. So it really doesn't matter what we get as far as the impact to the budget because we're just offsetting the zero right now. So I think that's all that I had. Oh, no, the next section there, sorry, the next slide there is just kind of a breakout. We did it last year just to kind of give an idea of the different functions or the different areas on the percentages of the expenses. And I see that amount is kind of getting cut off, so I need to fix that.
Yeah, and those percentages are pretty comparable to how they played out last year. The special programs is probably the one. It's up a full percentage point at this point from last year. So, but they're all pretty similar. And then the challenges ahead, you know, big picture, these are all the same challenges that we've faced the last couple of years, but some of them are hitting a little closer to home. Labor shortage, I would say where labor shortage is hitting us right now is special education teachers. That's kind of where we're feeling it. I think we're going to be okay, but it just that just seems to be where the pinch point is right now. But all these other things, they continue to be true. We've talked about the legislative update, so those are the big things that are affecting that, the risk of shifting funding from the burden of funding growth and education from the state to the local. And then the risk of reduction, including the risk of reduction of real or personal property tax rates, that there's a lot of legislation associated with personal and real property taxes. I haven't heard much in the last couple of weeks, so it'll just be interesting to see how this session ends at the state level. And then you can't ignore the legal challenge to Jackson County over the 2023 property assessment process. And there's a new chapter in that now every week, it seems. So we have to continue to keep our eyes out for all of those things. That is that's our preliminary budget at this point. Questions that the board has for any of us?
Any questions for tonight on the presentation?
I liked it. It's very easy to read and understand, so I appreciate it. I know a lot of work went into it.
Maybe we can talk about the priority FTE list.
That'd be great.
I want to draw the board's attention to that next attachment that we referenced here a few minutes ago, the 2025-2026 FTE budget requests. You've seen this chart before. You see in parentheses at the top the April update. So where you see 1 to 2 special education teachers, that's what it read when you saw this back in January or February. You have now you've approved 1 of those positions. So we're just kind of tracking how we're progressing. We did add an ELA, a high school ELA teacher, but that one is not going to have an impact on the budget because we moved an FTE, we transferred an FTE from another position. So and we've authorized 1 elementary teacher. You did that last time we met. We hired that kindergarten teacher position back, and then the ones that don't have parentheses, those are on hold right now. I will say that we are getting to the point in the school year that it would be difficult for us to commit to a high school admin intern, not because we couldn't fill that position, but because it gets harder to backfill that teacher that we've promoted into that position. So that one on the list is probably the least likely to make the cut. So it would presumably stay on the list for evaluation a year from now. We do want to solve this technology department system administrator role. So we'd like to find a solution for that. I do think that as soon as the May school board meeting, we're probably going to ask for 2 special education paraprofessionals. We're not afraid to ask for more. We just don't need more right now. So we will just ask for what we need when we need it. We have taken care of the associate principal title at the high school, so that one is in place. And we have addressed the middle school coaching positions. And in fact, I think there's actually a 5th because it was an activity. It was a student government. So we've added a position for middle school student government. I think they've been sharing, and now we're ready to split. I don't always get the whole story. I get those little things, those little nuggets I think of, and I'm like, I think I heard somebody say that we're going to have 2 different student government sponsors. So that sounds like a good move. And then I highlighted in yellow because this wasn't on the list the first time you saw it, but we have since come back and solved a Title I funding issue to supplement Snijabart and Stoney and Matthews. And so you've approved 2 behavior technician paras. And so that's why those are written in the way they are and highlighted in yellow. The main thing I want to highlight, though, is what's down below, because what's down below are all the other requests that have come in since the start of this current school year. And a couple of things that are highlighted on your list are SRO number 5. We would like to, if the state fully funds the formula, or maybe they dial it back a little bit and we can look at funds, we're willing to make that move at this time for SRO number 5. We would also like to look at our low voltage technician role, and the responsibility of that technology, of that technician, have kind of evolved over time. And so we're ready to do a title change and kind of have pay that's comparable to where the responsibilities are headed for that current position. So we would like to do that. There's a couple other things. I've already mentioned the buses. I made a note on my printout to remind you about if we have an opportunity to do 4 propane buses for the cost of 3, we would do that. But the other position is underneath the SRO there. It says 4 recess or cafeteria supervisors. This would be 1 per elementary school. And if you'll recall, a couple of months ago, the teacher organization reps came and spoke, and they talked about that their number 1 ask is about time and the protection of time. And as we look at this administratively, one thing that we could do, and we have since done another set of roundings at each of the schools and talked to groups of teachers at all of our buildings on this. And I think we're getting closer to having an understanding on the plan time and after duty schedule. Like I'm confident we can solve that. But we could actually help capture time for our elementary teachers and our elementary classroom teachers and specials teachers if we added 1 para per building whose primary responsibilities was to supervise recess in the morning and the afternoon and to supervise the cafeteria during that long stretch in the middle of the day. Now, this doesn't mean that the specials teachers who are currently supervising lunch, it doesn't mean that they're done supervising lunch. It just means there's another person in there that's their job, and so the specials teachers would have less lunch supervision. The classroom teachers would still have to take turns supervising recess so that we could have our ratios. And personally, I don't mind having a system where there's always 1 classroom teacher out at recess, but you've got a para that's their job. Now that other classroom teacher each day that would have been the second, they just picked up 25 minutes in their day. So if we could do this investment, if we're able to pull this off with increased SAT funding, I think our elementary teachers would be very much appreciative. So that's why we want to bring this list back. We weren't ready to physically write them up at the top, but we wanted to draw some attention to what's next on this list if we get additional funding from the state. So I don't know if you had any questions on that or any reaction to that, but that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Yes, it would be no more than $140,000. So, yeah. And the reason I say that is because we had 4 special education paras up top that were budgeted at $140,000, and I say no more than 140 because if we had an applicant, if we had a situation where somebody didn't actually want to work full time but they wanted to be 3/4, I bet one of the schools, because you don't start recess at 8:45 in the morning. So we could be flexible a little bit if somebody wanted like a 3/4 job and be engaged in their child's school in a positive way. So we think this would be very well received.
You kind of have a total rough number of the wish list, just as a whole? Is it $1 million? Is it like?
Up top, the initial one was $639,000. But we're not going to spend all of that, and then we're going to add these things. We want to add these things down below. So I would just eyeballing it. There's about $240,000 down below, so $800,000 in all. But we've already authorized most of it. So it's really going to. Are you questioning my math?
Maybe a little.
You're saying
I just want to clarify one thing. Do you mean like The
I'm
total
talking the
dollar
total
amount for
list.
everything at the
No,
bottom.
no, just, yeah, the total dollar amount for if the entire wish list were,
Oh, I thought you meant
Complete.
just the ones
he
that are
meant the whole
highlighted.
list.
No, no,
Oh,
no,
the
I'm
whole
sorry.
list? No, I
Yeah.
don't have a clue.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have a clue.
Yeah,
Okay.
and-
And that's what they're telling me
that's
is
a
that I don't
great
have
deal.
a clue.
We'll have two, please.
Just because there's a lot of teaching positions
Yeah.
in there. There's process coordinators and there's
It'd be
administration.
a couple million, probably.
Yeah.
We would need a
Million.
levy.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah. I was gonna
Sometimes
clarify
I
it.
hear what I want to hear. Okay.
All right, any additional questions on either the, you made me lose my place here, sorry.
These
The-
priority?
Yeah, the priorities or the budget? Proposed budget? No. All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Hooper. That will take us to insurance rates for the 2025-2026 school year. This will be an action item. I would look for a motion to approve the insurance rates for the 2025-2026.
So moved.
Second.
All right, if you can highlight what you're asking for?
Yes. These rates, what these rates do is basically they increase the amount that the district is going to contribute on behalf of the employee, but it keeps the rates flat for the employee costs of insuring a spouse or a child or their family. We listen to the teachers on that, and so we're committed to keeping those rates flat that come out of their pocket. We continue to offer a plan that would be available at no cost to the employee for their own insurance, but they can certainly pay up for two other plans. So, and I will say, all the feedback that we get, our teachers are very pleased with the coverage that they have. They're very pleased with their access to the Consiglio Wellness Center. So the health coverage that they are provided, the feedback we're getting is very positive. The one thing that we heard that was negative this year was we increased those family rates for the first time in a while. And if you were a new teacher or you're on that first bachelor's column, then a disproportionate percentage of your raise you got as a result of the levy went to your family medical. So that's unfortunate. Moving forward, we'll try to help them out by not continuing to grow the family coverage.
And then after we get past the approval of these rates, we will have a more in-depth conversation about how we move forward and what options there might be. So,
I think the big thing that I'm hearing from the board is, we want to make sure that there are checks in place that as all of this gets more expensive, that we are getting the best possible coverage at the best possible cost to the district and to the employees. And the time to plan, so this is approving 25-26 rates, and the time to start talking about how to make sure moving forward for 26-27 that we're getting the best deal possible is now. So Mr. Porter and I had talked about making time at the June workshop, perhaps, to just focus on what questions and concerns do we have about how we're doing business, how we're getting information to the board about how we do health business, and what types of questions can we answer for the board. And then through that discovery process in the months ahead leading into next winter, we should be able to flush out how we feel about the behind the scenes of how we do our health coverage and our bidding. And then we can decide what decisions need to be made, big or small, to ensure that we're getting the best deal moving forward.
any members have any additional questions or comments? All right, all in favor of approving the motion to approve the insurance rates for the 2025-2026, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next item will be also an action item to approve non-certified staff for the 2025-2026 school year. Oh, did I?
I do want to speak to that. Thank you. The sub-item additional health, in the board's packet, they have some additional resources. When we had the discussion last week at the workshop, and so Dr. Gooch has started pulling together some information to address some of the questions that were asked about health coverage and how we do things. And so we'd started sharing it with individual board members, and then today or yesterday, we're like, no, we just got to get it out to everybody. So it's not necessarily a point of discussion today, but it's a start of a set of resources for us to start talking about as soon as that June workshop. So I'm glad you pointed out. We didn't mean to jump over that.
Yeah, so I would look for a motion to approve Joseph Phillips as a field technician for the 2025-2026 school year.
So moved?
Can we get a roll call on this one, please?
We can get a roll call. I will have the secretary call the roll when we are ready. Is there any discussion on this item? No?
I abstain.
Yes.
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 All right, motion passes with a 6-0 to 1 abstention. Thank you. That will take us to the MSBA Summer Summit, June 16 through 18 in Branson.
Friendly reminder.
Okay. Everybody on the board that wants to attend the Summer Summit, please let April know. She will be more than happy to get you registered. All right, that takes us to the end of our agenda. I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you for coming.